Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Now in here what we're trying to do is load the sign up and login page HTML pages so that we have at least those, the home page, the login, and the sign up. Alright, so let's remove our subfolders here. That way we go to the home page, but because our server is in a wrong folder from last lesson, let's move it to the right folder. So I'm going to do that by canceling the running server right now, in case that's what you have. And let's go to our actual folder, the public folder, and run the server from there. So I'm going to open the command line from here and say php-s localhost. Don't forget the port number, and back here let's refresh. Okay, so we're on the home page. Great. Now in the index page I want to remove this part where I'm echoing the base URL. We already know that works, so let's save that. I'm gonna refresh. Oopsie daisy, I saw something there which I shouldn't have, so let me undo that. Let's refresh, and as you can see there's this slash here that we don't want, so let's remove that. What I'm gonna do is go to init where the function is to get the base URL. At the end of this I want to remove any slashes that are there, so since the slash is with this, I'm going to strip it away. So I'm gonna do script name is equal to rtrim, right? So I'm telling it to trim some characters from the right side of the text. So I'm gonna do a comma and trim this. Now let me trim that, and I'm gonna trim this one as well. But the problem with this slash that I've just added right now is that it escapes the character in front of it, right? Making it an ordinary string. But we don't want that, so we put it twice. So even though it's showing twice there, it's actually just representing one of these. The other one is just to escape this one. So hopefully that makes sense. And that should solve the problem. So if I refresh, there it is, right? Okay, great. Let's save that. Goodie. Now to add our pages. Now I can go back to my home page now and remove this. Okay, so the first thing we want is to load our pages. Now the view files are not in the folder, so we need to grab those. So what I'm gonna do is, first of all, let's create a function that will load a view file. Now there are several ways we can do this. We can either run a function. Let me go to one of these controllers. Let's try like the home controller, or maybe a inside auth. Let's try the login controller, right? Now here, what I could do is run a function called view. For example, I can say something like view. Oops, what am I doing? I can say view like that, and then put the view name here, which is login in this case. So what this can do is it can actually log. This would be a function that actually loads the login view file. Now the only problem with this is that it isolates this thing from the outside. Now this could be a good thing or a bad thing, but I don't want the view file isolated from the rest of the code that's on top here. So instead I want to be able to do a require like this. Alright, now if I isolate it without, which means without the require like that, it means if there are any variables that I want that are already here to go within the view file, I would have to put an array here. which contains those variables, right? Now, this could be a good thing or a bad thing. Depending on what you want, you can do it this way. You can create a function which will load your view files, isolating them from the controller. That way, you can send your variables through an array into the view file if you need to. But I don't want us to do this like I already mentioned. I want to simplify this as simple as possible. So let's do that version instead. So what the view function will do is return a path to the login view file. That way we can include it directly like this, which means whatever variables we have here will automatically be available in the view file. Okay, so doing this, we need to create this function. So let's go to functions and let's create that function called view. So we're going to do function view. Now this does not return anything, it just echoes, just includes, oh, actually it does return a string. Sorry about that. And here we expect a string of the file path. Okay, so with that path, what we need to do is require a file. So file is equal to path, and then if file exists, okay, we are going to require it. Now if it doesn't, you could simply echo and say file not found. And in this case, it's the file, like so. Now we can be very specific and say view file not found. Alrighty then. That way we know what file it was looking for and why it wasn't found. Now, path alone is not the actual path. So what I'm going to do is try to find it. So this will be inside. Now remember that always we're inside the index file. So I'm going to do, let's add and concatenate // app / views / and then whatever that file is. Now view files, I would rather we save them, for example the login view file, we'll save it as login.view.php. That way we know this is a view file. So from that I'm going to concatenate the .view.php like that. Okay, great. Alright, so let's copy a few files into that folder. So I have these files here that we got in lesson 1. So if you have the lesson files, check in lesson 1, it should have these files. Now if you don't, you can just generate your own HTML files like a homepage, login page, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to grab the login HTML, the index HTML, and the signup HTML, and I'm going to copy these files to my project folder. So inside the public folder, let's move out of that into the app folder and then views and paste there. Okay, so now they are part of our project. If I go to views, I have them here now. So these are view files, so I'm going to rename them. So rename the index, I'm going to rename it to home.view.php. Okay, save that. Same thing with login, rename .view.php. Same thing with signup, rename .view.php. Alrighty then, great. So now I can load these files, which is good. So let's try this out. So on the I'm on the home page. If I refresh, I don't get any of that. So let's go to where is this? The controllers. So inside the controller, the home controller, okay, there we go. The login controller. So the login controller has a require file. So let's check that out. Let's go /login. Alright, and as you can see, it has loaded the view file, which is great. But here it says uncaught view. Return value must be type string, none returned. Ah, great. Okay, so let's go back to that function. Inside functions, the view thingy, we are not supposed to load the file here like I said. We're supposed to return a path. So this was my mistake. So what we're going to do instead is let's remove all of this. And here we're just going to say return. Like that. Okay. Good. So our view function just returns the path of the view we want. So let me go to the login here. And what do we do here? We just say require like that. Now instead of require, you can say include, because include is more lenient. If the file is not found, it will just ignore that. But require creates an error if it doesn't find the file. So what we can do is here we can just say path is equal to, or let's say view file. We just say view is equal to something like that. And then let's paste this here. Now this is more messy than what we had. The view thing was much cleaner. Oops. Sorry guys. Sneezing there. Okay, so view, I can just say file instead, right? That way we require the file or view file not found like this. So this is on our controller. So let me go here and let me refresh. And there it is. But actually I like the other version. You know, I changed my mind. I have a right to change my mind, no? So instead of require here, let me just do this view login. I think it's okay for us to add some data here if we want. So I'm just gonna do this. No, this is fine actually. So let's go to our functions back here. Let's undo what we did here. Sorry about that, guys. Let's do that. And here I expect an array of data. So I'm gonna say data, and let's set that to an empty array like so. And then this doesn't return anything anymore, so it's void. I think this is much cleaner. Now if in case we have any data here, we should extract it here so that it's available. So I'm gonna say if not empty data, we're gonna say extract data. Now what extract does is that if for example I have key value pairs in my data array, it's going to create variables out of that using the keys and the values inside that data. That way it allows me to just name the variables directly. You're gonna see that once we start using it. So this is fine now. Let's go back here and see if any errors are gone. Come on, load, load, load. Why is it taking so long to load? And yeah, one thing you notice is that the PHP server is quite slow. Okay, so let me remove this from the controller, right? But this is our HTML page. The only problem is it doesn't have any CSS. So this is where we need to go in and replace some stuff. So I'm going to go to my login view and let's replace all these I'm not connected to the internet, so this is why these are not showing. So I'm going to change these bootstrap thingies here. We have bootstrap 5.3.3. I hope I have that. We downloaded bootstrap, so hopefully you have that. So what I'm going to do is change this path to a local one. I'm going to do the same here. There's font awesome here up to where it says CSS. There we go. So we've reduced it to that. Now I want to add the base URL because all these CSS files should go through the HTTP path. So URL like that and close it. And then in the base URL, because base URL doesn't have a slash at the end, so we're going to do slash and then assets and then CSS and then bootstrap and then font awesome. So we're going to need local versions of this. Let me go down here and see if there are any other things we need. So let me copy this path over here up to assets, and let me come down here, same thing. I'm going to replace all of this so that it's base URL, assets, and then JavaScript, and then bootstrap bundle mean.js. Great. All right, so that is great. This looks like things are working. Even these redirects, like redirecting to signup.php, instead, we're not going to do that. We're going to redirect using the base URL and then slash signup like that without the PHP, like so. All right, so that's how we going to have our links this time. Okay, so of course we don't have the assets folder yet, so none of this is going to work. So what we're going to do is let me go to the bootstrap that I downloaded, right? So I did download bootstrap and font awesome. Let me copy those guys. Let me go back to my so I made a copy, that way if I delete here it's fine. I'm gonna go into the app. No, I need to go into the public folder, and in here I'm going to create a folder called assets like that. Okay, and inside assets I will paste my folders here and extract these guys, both of these. Now that I have extracted, I don't really need the zip files since I made a copy of these. I still have the originals, so that's great. And now here, what I want is to have CSS folder and then a JS folder as well. So now inside the Bootstrap distribution, there's the JavaScript, right? So we want the bundle.js. Let's get the mean versions. So bundle.mean.js. And I think bundle covers everything. I'm going to get the bootstrap.mean.js as well and copy those. Come back to assets. Inside JS, I paste those guys. Let me go back to assets. And now for the font awesome. Inside CSS, I want the all.mean.css, and come back to assets, go into the CSS and paste. Okay, now inside font awesome, there should be web fonts that are outside the CSS folder for this to work. So I'm going to copy that web fonts folder. I only know this through experience because when I didn't copy that folder, things didn't work. So I'm pasting it here because it has to be outside the CSS folder, just like it is in font awesome when you get it. So since with font awesome that's all we need, I'm going to delete this font awesome folder just so my project file is small. And then I didn't copy any CSS bootstrap, so let me go do that. So there's bootstrap.mean.css. I'm going to copy that and go back to assets inside CSS and paste that. Come back here and I can delete bootstrap. Okay, great. Now, if I reload this, it should, in principle, give me my CSS. And it has. Look at that. That is pretty cool. Now, that login controller, I can delete that information. So let me go back to, where is this? Login controller. And let me remove any echoes here. So all we are doing is just having that view file. Okay, so now our view file is isolated from the controller, which I don't really like sometimes, but I think it's much cleaner code. You can agree with me if you look at that. Alright guys, so the same thing, let's just do it with the sign up page, right? Paste, and change that to sign up. And exactly the same thing for the home page. Let's do that, and that one will be home. Great, right? And now let's create the view files. Those view files are there already. Let's just clean them up. We're gonna need the base URL. So I'm gonna copy base URL up to assets here, copy, and let me go to sign up. And let's do the same thing here. Boom. And here as well. Boom. Let's go down to any of these others. Let's do the same thing. Up to dist here. Boom. Great. So let's see if I click on sign up here, right? It does take me to the sign up page, which is awesome. Now let me fix these links here. So we have links here that should not look like this. They should just look like this. And where else? This one as well. Let me remove assets and just privacy like so. And which other one? Yes, these terms, which is here. I'll paste that as well. Remove assets and remove the .php as well. Alrighty then. What other links do we have? None. So let's try this again. Boom. Okay, looking pretty good. If I click here, I'm taken to the login page and click back there. Great. So on the login page, there's forgot password here. Let me just make sure that I put that link properly as well. Right here. Let's remove assets. Let's remove .php and save. Now let's go to the home page. Let's do the same for the home page. Up to distribution here, paste. Same thing here, up to CSS here. Boom. Let's go down to the bottom. I'm gonna copy that up to here. Alrighty then, guys. Let me go to homepage. How do I even go to homepage? So I just use the URL. And there it is. Look at that. Now, the only missing content here is the images that are generated from an API on the internet. So that's fine. We can do without those for now. So that's our homepage. And log in and sign up. Alright guys, so hopefully you've learned something here, and I will see you in the next video.